Ayo, Batman here. So today's gonna be an interesting video. It's supposed to be more serious, but I kind of don't want to make it too serious. I don't know why. Let me know, or I guess I'll hear if there's some noise going on in the background. Of course, there's cats, there's laundry, and the apartment looks a little messy because we're cleaning. I guess we're doing spring cleaning. I guess that's what people call it. We're just doing it because we wanted to do it, so whatever. So I guess what I wanted to talk about was this concept of why the lottery seems to be easier. Why it seems to be easier to buy a ticket and play the lottery than it does to vote. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it because I feel like there is value in making something like voting accessible to people and making it doable. Now, one can make an argument that it's pretty doable now. Like most people, when you're an adult, you get an form of identification from the government, usually to drive, or to buy cigarettes, or to buy alcohol, or to get a passport, or yada, 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 or go certain places. If you have a credit card, oftentimes they need another form of ID to verify who you are. And then, to vote, you show your government ID, and then cool, this is your name, got it, and then you can vote. All right. That's kind of the basic concept. Now, interestingly enough, as far as I know, in California, the only real thing, I honestly don't even know if you have to be 18 to play the Lotto. You might need to be, so there is that. I never played it when I was younger than 18, and I barely play it now, just kind of as a lark. Because really, I think the Lotto is kind of a tax on poor people. And yeah, boy, do I feel it. Anyways, whatever. That's a different thing. But what I kind of wanted to talk about was this concept of why do people feel like it needs to be easier and easier and easier? And there's this idea of like, oh, well, okay, let's make it super duper easy. Like, let's make it digitalized. Or you have an app, and it's just like, all you have to do is you go on your app and you can just swipe right or swipe left for who you want to be president or governor or, any other local thing or representative. And the problem is that most people have no idea who they're voting for. I would argue even on the presidential level. Like the people that vote in general, majority of them barely know anything about the representatives. And that's including on the presidential level. When there's there's arguably a whole year dedicated to the presidential election, and then in reverse, like most people don't know who their governor is or who their local representatives are or who their senators are, who their House of Representatives are. Like your average American does not know who is representing them, and that's just on the federal level, and then the presidential level, let alone the local level. So to me, I actually think that no, maybe we shouldn't make it super duper easy for people to vote. Maybe the people that are voting should be the people who are informed. So if we make it just super easy where it's just like, oh yeah, I just like put my thumb here or my finger here and voila, I voted, or I just swipe right or swipe left. Maybe that's not a good idea because the people that are being put into office, they have a lot of say and a lot of sway over what goes on a federal to local level. And that could have a very intense impact on your average day-to-day lives. One thing I will point out, being a Californian, that I've observed is you get people who they hear this, we're gonna increase the tax on gas, but it's okay because we're using it to build the roads. And naturally, I'm like, but hold on, we're already giving you money. We're in California. You have buku amounts of money. You already have money to do the roads, and the roads already suck. So the problem isn't that you don't have enough money. The problem is you're wasting it. So, and I'm really going on a sidetrack here, but it's just like, oh, okay, that's not the problem. So I basically want to, it occurs to me, my issue is that no, things that are worth having are worth working to get. Just because you turn 18 does not, like, voting, in my opinion, it shouldn't really be construed as a right. You don't have this, like, God-given right to vote. okay? You have the ability to vote if you become a citizen of the United States. You have the ability. Now, whether or not you do the necessary steps to get that, to utilize your ability and to do that thing, that's okay. That's on you. But it's not like somebody needs to go out of their way and be like, hey, here you go. Now you can, like, oh, you want to vote this way? Do you know everything about? No, you don't? Okay, well, maybe here's some more things you should know. And then this way you know everything about the people and all the things and all the stuff. It's just like, dude, that's not the point. The point of voting was supposed to be for educated people, for people who, and I'm not saying you have to have like a Ivy League education to vote. Not at all. I'm just saying you need to be aware of what's going on, at least on a minimal level of whom it is that you're voting on, what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it, and so on and so forth. Because voting is a vastly more complex issue than just basically gambling. Because if you think about it, that's all the Lotto is. All the Lotto is just gambling. Except instead of going to a casino and putting in some money and pulling a lever and then see some doohickeys, you're doing scratchers, or you're picking your numbers and you're like, I like this number and this number. And then you're hoping you win. You're hoping. And you're trusting that the system isn't rigged and you're hoping you win. Okay, fine. Fine. But it's just gambling. So yeah, no, I would actually think that voting should be where you as a citizen of a country are deciding in part who's going to run the country, who's going to affect seriously the rest of the country in a smaller or greater degree. I would hope that would be a higher standard than just gambling. I think it should be a higher standard. I'd also like to pivot into something else, which is I very much think that we need to start expecting more and better from the people that we are allowing in public office. It is so silly to me that we have someone, well, a lot of people like to say, oh, well, Donald Trump. And it's just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. He wasn't qualified. And I'm like, well, for starters, he did run a many multi-million-dollar corporation for a very long time. And he was so proficient at it that he was known, arguably globally, for his accomplishments. And that's not really something that most, hundreds of millionaires or billionaires can say. Most billionaires are not known. You would not know them. You would, like the head of Google, you'd be like, oh, it's the head of Google. That's how you would identify him. There's a few now, like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, where you know them not just by their corporations that they run and Mark Zuckerberg, but also by them specifically. But that was not really the case until very recently. And Trump is the exception to that. So here's a guy who has been in the limelight. And I really don't want to defend Trump, so I'm not trying to make it about that. But I'm trying to point out that a lot of people like to say he wasn't qualified. And I would argue that he's a lot more qualified than a lot of other people that we've had in office who their main qualification is, oh, well, they were in politics before. And I don't think that being in politics should be a qualification. I think being good at what politics is and understanding what their job is what their qualification should be. Okay? Are they able to problem solve? Like, hey, here's a thing, here's a problem, and then we've solved it. Not like swept it under the rug. That's not what I'm trying to say. But like, here's a problem, and then it's not a problem anymore. Look, see, not a problem. We solved it. Not tucked under. Okay? So that's what we want. We want politicians who do that. That's the kind of thing that we want. Okay? And we also want them to do that legally. So we don't want to necessarily have someone who ran like Chevron or Texaco, and they're like, oh, well, we needed to make more money, so there's a problem, and we just, polluted the Amazon to make more money. Problem solved. And it's like, no. That's not the kind of problem we want, or that's not the solution we want either. So I'm going to perhaps delve more into this at a later point. I don't really, honestly, I pivoted way far away from what I wanted to talk about. But I think it's important for people to realize, kind of like with all the other stuff that I'm talking about, that you need to understand what it is that you want. What it is that you want in the people that you're voting for, okay? And voting is a responsibility. It is not a gift. It is not a right. It is a responsibility. as a citizen. You don't have to do it. Nobody's going to force you to go down and vote. Nobody is. You should, but honestly, I would prefer people don't vote if you're not educated. If you don't know who it is that you're voting for and why, don't vote on it. Don't. Because you don't know. And furthermore, I would say you should know. It's important. It will affect you. And then when you're complaining about, oh, why are the tax prices this way? And why is this? And why am I spending so much? And yada, yada, yada. Realize that, well, your lack of knowledge and lack of informing other people, that is impacting those things. So those things that you don't like, yeah, that's kind of on you and on your parents and on your friends that you're not talking about and being like, dude, this is not cool. I don't want this. Let's not have this. Anyways, long rant, over for now. But simply put, no, voting and the lottery are not comparable at all. And frankly, I think the lotto, like, we can make the lotto easier if you want, but I kind of like how complex it is now. You can't just rack it up on a credit card. You have to use actual cash and money. I think that's better. And voting, I actually think that it's like, no, you should see someone's identification. And if somebody wants to, it should be one day, just one day. And if somebody is going to be out of town and they can't be there, they need to, give some sort of notice. Like, let's say if you find out last minute where you're like, oh my God, I can't go tomorrow. Then it's like, okay, cool. You can basically put in your thing now or whatever. I'm willing to work on the things, but basically I want there to be some form of verifying, like, this is the person who is voting, because this is a very serious and important thing. And perhaps we can do even more intense stuff of, yeah, you do the thumbprint and whatever, but I'm hesitant to do things digitally because I think that there's a lot of room for hacking and shenanigans. I think that in a weird way, staying kind of old school, unless you can really verify like zero hackability, staying old school is probably better for voting. And yeah, it might be annoying, and yeah, people might need to wait in line. And I don't know, maybe we should make election day like a national holiday or something and close everything down, including grocery stores. There's just one day where nobody works. All you do is vote. That's it. You just vote. Maybe we should do that instead. But again, it's not a right. Like, it is your responsibility as a citizen of the world and a citizen of wherever you live to vote and know and be aware. But you're not owed that. Anyhow, thank you. So that was kind of my serious one for the day. It was supposed to, again, just be about lottery versus election, but it kind of became a whole other thing. Anyways, so Plaidman out. Talk to you tomorrow. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Yeah, thanks. Bye.